Hi Stampers, it's Pat Fairless with Fairless Stamp and Flair, and I'm here today with Connect to Create. If you have not yet watched one of our videos, Connect to Create is a collaboration between a friend of mine and fellow demonstrator, Kathy Ondas. She's from Simply Cards by Kathy. And we are joining up to bring you a video each week that will show you how to do something. Hopefully it will. It may be a technique or it just may be a tip or a trick. Today I'm going to share with you the masking technique, and I hesitate to call it a technique. It's more so just a tool that if you're a stamper, you really need to have it in your toolbox to know how to do masking. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. And I'm going to do it a little bit differently. Normally, I would show you the technique and then I would show you the cards that I used with that technique. Today, I'm actually going to show you the card first that uses the technique, and then I'm going to show you how to do it because I think it'll help better understand why we use masking. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to switch my camera down. So give me a minute to do that. And I'll bring in my desktop, and I will remove this one. Okay. All right. So hopefully you can see my desktop now. And this is the card that I'm going to make. This card uses the Grove dies for this tree part around here for the die cut. The images of the deer are from Peaceful Deer. So, and the sentiment is from Peaceful Deer, and I'm going to show you how to do that because the sentiment doesn't look exactly like that. So let's, what I'm going to focus here on is the center part with the little fawn and her daddy standing behind her. I'm assuming it's her dad because he's got antlers. And I don't think female deer have antlers, but I could be wrong about that. I'm not really a deer aficionado. So, but that's what I'm going to show you how to do, how to make the deer, the large deer, look like it is standing behind the small one. So let's go ahead and do that. And I will bring in my cardstock first. I'm using Very Vanilla. And that little guy is stamped in soft suede. So I got my soft suede ink pad out. And I think he was about in the middle of the card-ish. Doesn't matter for the technique, but I would like to use this for maybe another card. So let's just go ahead and stamp him there. All right, he's good. Now he does need his little spots because he's just a cute little baby, right? So let's give him some spots. And now I need, what I need to do the next step is I need a mask for this guy. So I will stamp him again on just some lightweight paper. And I tend to use just plain old printer paper that I use in my printer. It's lightweight, it's easy to work with, and it's cheap. You want it to be thin because as you stamp over it, you don't want to get a ridge. Now, the one hint is we want to cut this with no border. So this particular little guy doesn't have a coordinating die, but if he did, and if you stamped him with the die, you would still need to trim off the edge. So let's just go ahead and trim them. And I like to cut right on the line or even just, maybe just inside the line a little bit, leaning towards the inside. And you're going to cut them all the way around. Now, I should put my glasses on to do this so I don't cut off his ear. Okay, that's better. We wouldn't want him missing an ear. Ready? All right, so we're going to cut around. I am not a quick, fussy cutter like some people. Some people can go zip, zip, zip. That is just, I don't know, fussy cutting. I don't mind doing it. I kind of like it actually, but I like to take my time. So see this, I'm still in frame. Now, if you know you're not going to be using a certain area of the deer, you don't really need to cut out the whole thing. If we look at the card, you can see the area that's really most important here is his back. So I want to make sure I get that, because I don't want that leg to come over the back. So I want to make sure that's got a good mask. And then I'm just going to cut off and leave the rest of it, because there's nothing I'm masking down here at the bottom. So now Stampin' Up! Does sell masking paper, and you can certainly use masking paper. I just, like I said, use my plain old copy paper. I put a little bit of temporary adhesive on the back to just kind of hold him in place. And now I can stamp the big guy. So get that stamp, get my soft suede back out, and ink him up. And I just kind of want him to look a little tucked under there. So that's probably good. I'm looking at the fawn's head relative to the standing deer's head. And let's just go ahead and stamp that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, if I take the mask off, you can see that it looks like the deer is standing behind it, right? And that's really what I wanted to show you. And the main thing there, we'll give him his antlers. I probably won't get these lined up too good because I can't see very well. There, okay, not bad. Now, what I would do in order to do this card is I need to also mask the large guys. So, and now I actually do need the bottom of the fawn cut off. And I'm not going to color all this for you, but I'll show you the masking portion of it just so you can get an idea of what I did. Okay, so we'll cover him all up. If I wasn't going to do this blending of the sky and the grass in the background, you could skip this step and just go ahead and color your deer. And then, because I made this card, I already do have a mask of the big guy here. And so I would cover up everything, and then I just used my blending brush to create a little bit of green down here at the bottom with Old Olive, and then this is Balmy Blue, and there's actually up behind here, there's a little bit of Blushing Bride behind the trees. But you leave these masks on for that, and then when you take them off, you can go ahead and color your deers. Now I used crumb cake markers, and I used one of the neutrals colors, I think it was SU 700, to just put a little pink in the deer's ears. But if you have like a petal pink or any kind of pink would work well. So that's how you do the deer. Now what I want to show you is how to do this sentiment. This is also masking, and this sentiment says, it's the best time of the year, but it's a long single line sentiment. And I was going to use that, but I couldn't figure out where to put it. It just, by the time I got a piece of white cardstock or very vanilla cardstock on there, just no place I really stuck it was I happy with. And I just kind of wanted something smaller. So what I did to stamp that is I took some masking tape, and this is 3M Scotch tape. It's actually painter's tape for new paint, and for painting it works absolutely horribly. So don't buy it for that. And I was going to throw it out when I'm like, well, maybe it'll work for this. So what I did was, all right, here's It's the Best. So I'm going to mask the time of year. I'm just going to put a piece of tape over that, mask it. and ink up that portion of the stamp now. Now it's critical to remember to remove this, because if I were to stamp with that on, I'd have that big brown blob, and we don't want that. So there's that. And then you want to make sure that you clean your stamp very well, because if you leave any ink on it, it will show when you go to stamp the next time. But now we can cover up the rest because we want to stamp time of the year. So now I'm going to cover up the first part that I had just inked and ink it up. Take that off. And it's nice that these are photopolymer stamps so you can easily see it. And just stamp that right below there. And that's how I turned a long stamp into a small little oval. This little oval is from Beautiful Shapes Dies. There's actually some really good shapes to use for sentiments. It's a lot of hexagons in there, but there's a couple cool shapes, and this one I thought fit just perfectly. So that's stamped in soft suede on Very Vanilla also. I did take my blending brush and just put a little color around the edge to make it not look quite so stark, so it blended a little bit more into the tree. So that's two ways to do and use masking. So now I'm going to show you one more card, and set this aside. I'll save it. I'll make another card with that. And I'll show you this card. Now, this uses masking behind flowers, and I'll be honest, this is how I probably use masking more than any other way when I want leaves behind my flowers. And particularly on the inside of a card and on an envelope, because you want this flat, right? If you die cut a flower, you could die cut these. There are die cuts with these, so you could, but this just makes a simple way to add some leaves that look like they're behind the flower. So let me go ahead and show you how I did that for the inside. And I am going to go ahead and make another inside of the card. Now, I'm going to do something that's a little bit against my better judgment. I'm not going to make it exactly like the example because I want to try a different leaf than these holly leaves and a little bit different color. And I didn't have time to do that before the video. So I'm just going to do it with you. And if it turns out awful, we'll just throw it away. But let's see how it goes. So these on the sample card, these are made with Sweet Sorbet and Parakeet Party. And I'm going to keep the Sweet Sorbet. This is Mellow Moss. Not Mellow Moss, Mossy Meadow. That dates me, Mellow Moss. How old is Mellow Moss? My goodness. Sweet Sorbet and Parakeet Party. And I wanted to try it with Shaded Spruce because it just, I don't know, I like this card. I really do like it, but I thought I wanted to try it with just a little bit darker, finer looking leaf. So we are using the Merriest Moments stamp set, and I'm going to use this little leaf here, which is kind of just a little more like a fern or frilly pine bough or something. So let's go ahead and try that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my sentiment in the center because that kind of guides me where everything else has to be. So the sentiment is also from Merriest Moments, and I'll use the same one here and just put that right in the center of my card. I thought these two sentiments, they did a good job in this stamp set. They've got one sentiment that says together is the merriest place to be, and then a second sentiment in the step is a joyful Christmas to you and yours. So I thought those two go pretty good together. I don't know what you think, but all right. So there's my sentiment. We're going to set the Shaded Spruce aside because I am going to use that. And then let's go ahead and stamp the two flowers down in the corner. Now for this one, I am using the medium size poinsettia. Uh-oh, I made a little muff. Okay, that's the easy part. Now these need to be masked. And again, we do that the same way as we did the last one. We take our piece of thin copy paper and we just go ahead and I can just stamp this again on here. I don't even need to re-ink it because I just need enough to be able to cut it out. And I lay this aside before I lay something in it that doesn't belong in it. And then on this one, I will again cut right on the edge. Don't leave a gap. And just cut right along the edge of the flower. If anything, be just inside the edge. So I think you get that. You probably don't need to watch me do the whole thing here. I don't go way into the center because I want to make sure I have a little bit of sturdy left in the center so I don't tear off my petals. So I would finish cutting that out. And by magic, I have two of them. Now, before I go onto the card, I want to show you there are, as I indicated, there are die cuts on this with this particular set. So you could just, rather than fussy cut these, you would think, well, I can just use my die and cut them out. And I'm going to show you what happens when you do that, because you see around here, and I probably need something. Maybe you can see the white against the very vanilla. There's a white edge all the way around. And so here's the difference of what happens. This one is made with trimming, fussy cutting close to the stamped image. This one over here is made using a die cut. So you can see that you get this white blank all the way around here, right? And that just isn't how leaves would be. Leaves would be right up to the flowers if they're coming from behind. So that's why I'm saying cut right along the edge, or even sometimes slightly, and I mean slightly, the width of your blade inside the edge to make sure that you get your leaves up close to the flowers. Doesn't that look a little more natural than this one with these big white gaps? I think so. So I wanted to show you that and show you why we fussy cut close to the edge. So now let me take this, and again, I need some temporary adhesive. And now we get to twist and turn and figure out where's the right place. Oh, look at that. Sometimes it works out right away, and sometimes you turn it all the way around until you get to the last step, right? I've been playing with these enough for the last couple weeks that I kind of have to figure it out. So, okay, so those are masked, and you can see that there's a little sweet sorbet peeking out from behind because like I said, I did it just right on the edge or slightly inside. Now we're going to try this other stamp, this little frilly one. And we're going to see what it looks like together. Okay, so I'm going to stamp over this. And where do I want it? That's always the hard part, to decide where do I want the leaves. And you want to give it a pretty good push because you do want to get it up against the petals. And I guess we'll put the other one maybe up here in this corner. That's my hardest part. I never know where to put them exactly. Okay. And we'll look at that one first before I do the bottom one. and see what we think. Not too bad, I guess, the placement. Sometimes you like to put them, a couple of them close to each other. I'll try that down here. Put these two a little closer together. And then let's put one more maybe over here. Still almost in thirds. And I'll peel that off. I actually think I might like that a little bit better. Yeah, what do you think? We'll add some little centers in the flowers. This is also from, I'm using pale papaya ink just to give something in the center. Now, obviously, I would mix up instead of mossy meadow for the border, I would use shaded spruce, but it's a very different look. I don't know. Which one do you like? This one is brighter, more cheery. I don't know. I guess let me know what you think. But so those are the two cards, and those are the ways we use masking. To make things look like they're behind each other. So again, or to change the shape of a sentiment. So again, the main thing is to remember is whatever you want in the foreground, stamp that first, and then mask that particular image and stamp what you want to look like it's behind it. So in this case, we stamped the fawn first, masked him, and then stamped the large deer behind. In the case of the flowers, we stamped the flower first, masked the flowers, and then stamped the leaves behind. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you learned a little bit, and you got something for your toolbox. Let me flip back over here. Move this. All right. I did have my glasses on to see, and the deer didn't lose his ear. So, like I said, I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. I'd be more than happy to re-explain something that's not clear. And as always, have a great day, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Kathy will be back next week with another video.